In Seattle, at 2:22 a.m., a young man holds his cat on a snowy street 1 minute before the end of the world. The feline in his arms stares with large, piercing golden eyes as the snow falls gently around them. He affectionately presses his cheek against his pet, but the cat suddenly pulls its head back. In an instant, a violent red energy erupts, engulfing the entire city in a blinding flash. The young man lies face down on the shattered pavement, knocked unconscious by the force of the blast. He jolts awake with a gasp, still clutching his cat, his face filled with shock and confusion. The youth wonders what happened as giant, glowing red letters form in the night sky. The message in the sky is a chilling notice directed at all surviving humans. He yells out in pure frustration, angrily kicking his remaining shoe into the air. It is now 2:24 a.m., just 1 minute after the world he knew has ended. The man hops through the ruined city, completely bewildered by the destruction around him. Still dazed, he suddenly loses his footing and tumbles across the rubble-strewn ground. A strange blue screen materializes before him, showing a message about syndicate rules. He stares at the unfamiliar words, unable to comprehend the bizarre legal notice. The notification coldly informs him that his planet has now been successfully seized. A horrific vision flashes through his mind of a woman named Mrs. Parsons, her head severed and lying in blood. The scene flashes back to 6 minutes before the end. The man, Carl, is on his couch playing a video game. His cat, clearly annoyed by the commotion, hops off his lap and onto the floor. The feline pauses before a framed photo of Carl with a red-haired woman, both holding the cat. It then settles on a cat tree, surrounded by many photos of the cat and the couple on the wall. A closer look at the photos reveals a picture of Carl proudly wearing his Coast Guard uniform. The pet walks past moving boxes labeled with the name B, indicating she recently moved out. A beep from the kitchen interrupts his game, and Carl gets up from the couch. He opens a window and sighs, while his furry companion affectionately rubs against his shoulder. Suddenly, the cat leaps out onto a branch. It is now 5 minutes before the end of the world. Carl leans out the window, shocked, telling the cat to get back inside immediately. The small animal ignores him, climbing the tree as Carl calls it a little rascal. He gives up, reminding himself that the cat isn't his but belongs to his ex. Carl decides it can jump back inside on its own. Outside, the creature just looks at the sky. It seems to think this is not his problem, as a single snowflake lands gently on its nose. A strange light suddenly shines down on Donut, making Carl clench his teeth in a surge of anger. He turns away, muttering that he should just let the stubborn animal freeze outside. Rummaging through a box, he wonders where his shoes are. It is now 4 minutes before the end. Finally dressed, he yells out Donut's name, his patience completely worn thin by the situation. The young man storms outside, standing by the fence, and demanding the cat come down at once. His neighbor, Mrs. Parsons, peeks out her window asking about the racket. It's 1 minute to the end. The cat finally leaps into his arms as the woman calls his name. There are only 30 seconds left. Carl apologizes to Mrs. Parsons, explaining that his ex-girlfriend's cat had gotten out. The neighbor seems pleased, saying he will be well rid of Beatrice before starting to insult her. But before she can finish her sentence, a blinding white light flashes from inside her apartment. A massive red explosion bursts outward, engulfing the building in a violent shockwave. Carl stands frozen in the street, still holding Donut as the destructive energy passes him. His eyes are wide with disbelief and shock as he stares at the aftermath of the blast. He then turns his head, witnessing another bright light erupting from the city center. From space, a massive energy pulse is seen spreading rapidly across the entire planet. The young man clenches his jaw in fury, but his anger quickly turns into absolute shock. He stands on the edge of a shattered road, looking out at a vast, desolate landscape where his city once stood. The time is now 2:24 a.m., and the lifeless body of Mrs. Parsons lies on the cold, cracked earth. Carl stares down at his neighbor, confirming to himself that she is dead as Donut rests on his shoulder. He realizes everyone in the building disappeared, along with the rest of the city and its 1 million inhabitants. The horrifying truth washes over him, leaving him stunned and surrounded by a red glow. Another message appears, stating every interior on the planet was crushed for its raw materials. He clutches his head in pain, the bluntness of the words feeling like a physical blow. The system then informs him that survivors will be given an opportunity to reclaim their lost matter. As he questions what reclaim means, a massive pillar of red light slams down from the sky. Both Carl and his cat turn towards the ominous glow, their eyes wide with uncertainty. A new notification explains the Borant Corporation has chosen an 18-level world dungeon option. He hops through the debris, wondering if this dungeon is like something from Dungeons & Dragons. The message adds that Borant Corporation has the right to broadcast and control all aspects of the dungeon. The survivor is left bewildered by the mention of a broadcast, questioning who could be watching. The system explains that whoever successfully completes level 18 of the dungeon will regain control of the planet. Carl growls in frustration as he stands before a glowing red staircase that descends into the unknown. He realizes everyone else is gone and questions if he really wants to enter the dark passage ahead. The AI then introduces itself as a neutral observer dispatched to supervise the dungeon's creation. The young man feels he has no choice, knowing he will freeze to death if he remains out in the cold. A new message appears, warning that the first level will open in 18 seconds and close in 1 hour. He clicks his tongue in annoyance, a single bead of sweat rolling down his cheek as the pressure builds. The rules clarify that crawlers must find the exit before time expires or all matter will be forfeit. With his decision made, he carries his cat down the stone stairs, leaving the desolate surface behind. Upon entering, the system highly recommends that he immediately find and utilize a tutorial guild. He arrives on the first floor, where a notice states he has 5 days until the level collapses. Another unhelpful message tells him any complaints must be submitted in writing to a syndicate office. The survivor looks around the vast, empty stone hall, taking in his new, dangerous surroundings. The AI's broadcast ends with a polite farewell as he stands before a huge, intricately carved door. He walks resolutely toward the massive door, ready to face whatever trial lies on the other side. A message appears, showing the alien species that owns the corporation. It warns him to remember them for a later test. The young man looks up at the notice in disbelief, wondering if the mention of a test was a joke. He glares at the floating screen, processing the absurd demand from his planet's new owners. The message window suddenly shatters. He realizes he closed it just by thinking about it. This confirms his suspicion that the mysterious system is somehow connected directly to his mind. With newfound resolve, he turns and pushes open the massive, ornate doors in front of him. Beyond the doors lies a long, dark corridor lined with flickering torches that fade into blackness. But before he can proceed, his cat unexpectedly scratches him, making him cry out in pain. The feline then multiplies into 3 identical copies, which all skitter away down the hall. He yells Donut's name and dashes after them just as the heavy doors start to swing shut. The entrance slams closed with a deafening boom, trapping him inside the dimly lit corridor. Far down the hall, a bright blue light erupts where the cats were heading, crackling with energy. He watches the distant light intently, his expression hardening as he prepares for the unknown. The cats merge back into one and sit calmly before a glowing blue symbol hanging in the air. A cheerful orange message box appears welcoming him. He notes its tone is different from the others. He compares the cheerful tone to that of a game show host as he reaches out to touch the floating message. Looking over at his cat, he is stunned to realize that Donut can see the floating text as well. A system window then appears, identifying the cat as crawler number 4119, also known as Princess Donut. A bright column of blue light suddenly engulfs both him and his companion in the middle of the dark hall. The torches lining the corridor walls now also glow with the same ethereal blue light from the system. Bathed in the strange light, the young man looks up, his expression hardening as he braces for what comes next. A system window designates him as crawler number 4122, assigning his name, race, and level. He is suddenly bombarded with numerous achievement notifications, leaving him completely overwhelmed. One of the many rewards he has received is a mysterious item called a bronze pet box. He earns a bizarre new achievement called Trailblazing Crazy Cat Lady for being the first to enter with a cat. Frustrated, he tries to dismiss the new windows by thinking, but discovers he can't close these ones. The message taunts them about their likely demise before upgrading his reward to a legendary pet box. He gets another achievement for being an early adopter and yells out asking how to open the menu. The system then grants him a silver adventurer box, followed by an achievement for having empty pockets. He earns more rewards and achievements for bringing no supplies and for not wearing any pants. The system continues to mock him, pointing out that he entered the dungeon wearing only his boxer shorts. He screams for the notifications to stop, but is instead rewarded with a gold apparel box for his lack of pants. He then gets an unarmed combat achievement before a neon sign for the tutorial guild appears ahead. The AI questions his sanity for entering a world dungeon without a weapon, calling him either brave or an idiot. He receives a bronze weapon box and the loner achievement for entering without any human companions. The system then mockingly offers him no reward for the achievement of being alone in the darkness. It laughs maniacally, telling the young man he is completely doomed, which fills him with terror. Despite the warnings, he looks up at the brightly lit neon sign marking the tutorial guild's entrance. Holding his cat tightly, the survivor cautiously steps forward into the area under the sign. His expression is wary as he moves closer, particles of light swirling around him in the darkness. Another achievement appears for falling into an obvious trap, offering a sarcastic reward about heaven. Suddenly, blinding spotlights switch on, forcing him to shield his eyes from the intense glare. The system warns he is about to meet his maker, as a horrifying vehicle full of monsters emerges from the dark. He grits his teeth in a mix of terror and resolve, realizing the gravity of his situation. The grotesque goblins on the spiked vehicle let out a battle cry as they charge directly towards him. A system window identifies the monstrous vehicle as a goblin murder dozer, designed to kill dungeon crawlers. The AI sarcastically wishes him good luck with his tetanus shots as he sprints away from the deadly machine. It then profiles the level 2 goblins, describing them as small, green, and surprisingly smart creatures. He runs for his life, dodging a strange sausage-like projectile thrown from the fast-approaching vehicle. The system introduces the level 3 goblin engineer, noting their aggressive nature, especially towards females. The survivor is thrown aside, yelling in disbelief at the sudden appearance of actual goblins. He wonders why these alien monsters look exactly like goblins from fantasy as the machine clunks to a stop. Without hesitating, the young man pushes off the ground and sprints back toward the guild entrance. He runs back to the only door he has seen, hoping to find refuge from the terrifying pursuers. His only chance of survival is behind the plain wooden door of the so-called tutorial guild. He pounds desperately on the door, while his cat frantically scratches at the wood, both trying to get inside. Behind them, the goblin machine lets out a loud hiss of steam, preparing to charge once more. The goblin engineer glares angrily from its perch, annoyed that its prey is trying to escape. Two smaller goblins jump down from the dozer, armed with small brooms, and begin to approach him. Suddenly, the locks on the door begin to turn from the other side as a tired voice complains about the noise. While they wait, Princess Donut cautiously sniffs the air, detecting the scent of someone behind the door. The door finally opens, revealing a large mouse man who asks if Carl is a crawler as he begs to be let inside. The gatekeeper is surprised to see him, mentioning he didn't even know the dungeon had opened yet. Meanwhile, the two small goblins have armed themselves with pineapples on sticks, laughing menacingly. The mouse man explains that they used to have a newsletter, but it was canceled due to budget cuts. He then tries to close the door, saying rules forbid him from letting crawlers in when monsters are nearby. Carl clenches his teeth in fury, enraged that the gatekeeper is abandoning him to the approaching monsters. A goblin swings its pineapple club at him, taking advantage of his argument with the mouse man. The survivor dodges the blow just in time and desperately asks how to open his loot boxes. To open them, he must finish the tutorial, but he yells back that he can't if the door is closed. The gatekeeper simply shrugs, saying it's not his problem as he shuts the door in Carl's face. Seeing his only escape route cut off, the young man grits his teeth, realizing he has no choice but to fight. With a powerful leap, he delivers a swift kick directly to the face of the nearest goblin. The creature is knocked back, and a health bar appears above its head, confirming this world is like a video game. The other goblin shrieks in rage, rushing past its fallen companion to attack the human, but the second goblin screams and turns, running back towards the massive murder dozer. The deadly machine roars to life, its spiked roller spinning as it charges forward once more. Carl stands over the groaning goblin he kicked, leaving it as the last monster near the guild door. Recalling the gatekeeper's strict rule about no living mobs, he lifts his foot to finish it off. He stomps down with a sickening crunch, splattering blood across the stone floor. With a grim look, he says there are no living creatures left, but the gatekeeper tells him to stop. A sudden flood of new achievement notifications appears, overwhelming him with constant dings. The mouse man tells him to get his cat, but Donut cleverly slips past them and into the guild. Seeing his chance, Carl dives inside just as the gatekeeper slams the heavy door shut behind him, Through a crack, they watch as the murder dozer smashes furiously against the guild wall. The young man finally slumps against the sealed door, exhausted but safe for the moment. He finds himself in a cozy, well-lit room with a fireplace, where the mouse man warms his hands. He asks if there are other exits, but the gatekeeper flatly tells him no. There are none. Carl then wonders if the goblins outside will wait for him, hearing the dozer's engine rumbling. The mouse man confirms one will wait, while the other goes to get backup from deeper in the dungeon. The gatekeeper warns that in 30 minutes the entire goblin family will be there, causing Carl to curse. With a determined look, the youth tells his cat to stay while it watches him from a high shelf. Donut ignores the command and knocks an urn off the shelf, making the mouse man cry out in horror. The pottery shatters into pieces as it hits the floor with a loud crash, destroying the precious item. As the gatekeeper mourns his mother's urn, Carl decides to take action and opens the guild door. Knowing he cannot afford to be passive, he steps back into the dangerous hallway to face the enemy. He realizes he must finish this quickly, stepping onto the metal frame of the murder dozer. The survivor climbs onto the vehicle and grabs the remaining goblin, who lets out a surprised grunt. With all his strength, he then hurls the small creature through the air toward the back wall. The goblin bounces off the wall and then ricochets into the other goblin, who is sent flying. Carl looks on, surprised by the unforeseen chain reaction his desperate action caused. The second goblin is brutally impaled on the sharp spikes of the murder dozer's roller. He spits on the ground, disgusted, complaining that some of the creature's blood got in his mouth. Now perched on top of the dozer, he looks down at the last goblin sitting in the driver's seat. He leaps down, delivering a swift and powerful kick to the final enemy inside the machine. The survivor faces the last goblin, realizing this one is much stronger than the others he fought. He throws a punch, but it just pings harmlessly off the pot the creature is wearing as a helmet. Realizing his punches are useless, the youth quickly grabs the makeshift helmet off the goblin's head. He then uses the pot as a weapon, slamming it down hard on the unprotected head of his opponent. The powerful blow sends the goblin flying out of the vehicle and onto the cold stone floor below. Carl looks down from the dozer at the dazed creature, noticing its health bar is low but not yet empty. To finish the job, he hurls the heavy pot with all his might, hitting the goblin directly in the head. The final goblin collapses onto the floor, and he notes how his initial kick barely did any damage. The young man sighs, gritting his teeth in frustration over the difficult fight. With cold determination, he raises his foot to deliver a final stomp and end the threat for good. The decisive blow lands with a brutal crunch, splattering blood across the vehicle's grim decorations. Standing over the remains, he struggles to keep his composure and fight back the urge to be sick. He turns away and leans against the wall to catch his breath, disgusted by the gruesome scene. A sudden system warning appears, alerting him that the dozer's boiler is about to explode. As red energy erupts from the machine, he panics and sprints desperately for the guild door. He screams a warning as he slams the heavy wooden door shut just moments before the explosion. Holding his cat tightly against his chest, the young man braces himself for the powerful impact. A massive blast rocks the entire room, sending a heavy barrel flying through the air from the force. After the dust settles, the survivor looks up and meets the furious glare of the guild's gatekeeper. The large mouse man towers over him, angrily demanding to know what he just did to the guild hall. A system window identifies the fuming rat hooligan as Mordecai, the guildmaster, and a non-combatant NPC. The intimidating figure is also revealed to be a level 50 character, far stronger than the newcomer. Mordecai then grabs the injured cat to inspect it, causing Donut to hiss defensively at him. Carl winces from his own injuries while his companion continues to growl at the towering guildmaster. He holds Donut close, feeling completely overwhelmed and confused by the bizarre dungeon's rules. He bombards Mordecai with a stream of questions, but the guildmaster calmly tells him to slow down. The veteran reveals he understands the young man's confusion because he was once a crawler too. He explains that upon reaching the 10th floor, crawlers are given the opportunity to exit the dungeon. These exit deals are offered by the Kuatin, the alien race also known as the Borant Corporation. The guildmaster adds that the deals get better on deeper floors. He took one and is now a guide. Carl asks if they are all aliens, questioning how the dungeon knows Earth slang if they are from another world. The bloodied survivor holds his cat, demanding to know what is really happening in this strange new world. The guildmaster shakes his head, revealing this is the 7th or 8th human-seeded world he has seen. He comments on how humans always have a deep-seated need to understand the reasons behind their fate. The veteran guide asks Carl why he cannot just accept his new circumstances and simply try to move on. The term human-seeded catches the young man completely off guard, his eyes widening with shock. Mordecai sighs and holds up a hand, gesturing for the confused survivor to calm down. Seeing Carl's persistence, the guide agrees to give him a quick version of the events that led to this. He sits down, bluntly stating that Carl's world is gone and that he sympathizes with the loss. He then shows a reflection of his past self, a skyfowl, explaining he changed species on the 3rd floor. The syndicate seeds planets with life and returns once a civilization with a government has formed. This moment is legally considered first contact, which starts a 50-year clock for the planet's inhabitants. Since humanity did not claim their world within that time, it legally became fair game for others. The Borant Corporation then purchased the rights to mine Earth for its resources. The corporation had a huge backlog of worlds to process, and they finally got around to his planet. Carl recalls the voice mentioning mining. The Guildmaster explains that the material taken is an insignificant fraction of the planet's total resources. The survivor is horrified, asking if everyone on Earth really died for such a tiny amount of minerals. Mordecai corrects him with a menacing glare, revealing that the corporation's true interest is not the planet's materials but its people. He explains that the entire world is now covered in dungeon entrances, with survivors from all over being forced to enter. Each of these newly formed entrances brings in a fresh crop of unwilling contestants for the cruel game. These people are all participants in what is apparently the most popular television show in the entire universe. With a dramatic flourish, he enthusiastically announces the name of the brutal show, Dungeon Crawler World. Still holding his cat, Carl asks if this means the whole ordeal is just a show and if the goblins were not a real threat. The Guildmaster confirms the danger was very real, adding that there would be no fun for the viewers without it. He elaborates with a chilling smile that for the audience watching, death is the ultimate form of entertainment. Changing the subject, Mordecai says his job is to teach new crawlers the basics, and it is time to begin the tutorial. The guide then grants Carl access to the crawler menu, gesturing with his fingers as Donut hisses defensively. Copying the motion, the young man swipes the air with his hand, and his cat's paw helps him out. A holographic heads-up display materializes in front of him, showing a grid, a minimap, and the Guildmaster. Mordecai tells him to zoom in on the minimap, which displays the locations of Carl, Donut, and himself. The Guildmaster explains that this is his menu, where he can see his stats and notifications. Carl looks at his stat screen, showing his strength, intelligence, constitution, dexterity, and charisma scores. He complains to Mordecai about his low intelligence score, clearly offended by the system's assessment. The Guildmaster explains that for a regular human, his stats are actually quite good, especially his strength. The guide then introduces the rating screen, calling it the single most important menu in the entire game. Carl selects the Ratings tab, his finger hovering over the button that will determine his future success. The screen shows all his ratings at 0, including views, followers, favorites, and most importantly, patrons. Mordecai reveals that while viewers cannot access the first floor, after that it is open season for them. If a crawler attracts a large audience, companies will sponsor them, running ads during their stream. The more patrons a crawler gets, the more loot they will receive, making popularity crucial for survival. A highlight reel will be broadcast in 30 hours, and getting on it is like winning the lottery. Appearing on the reel guarantees a huge influx of viewers, but to get there, a crawler needs to stand out. He advises that simply killing monsters is not enough. One must do it with style and flair to attract attention. The young man gives a thumbs up on the screen, understanding he needs to kill with style to survive. The Guildmaster shares that during his own time as a crawler, he managed to survive by gaining millions of followers. The Guildmaster changes the subject to loot, informing the young man that he has activated his inventory system. Carl sees the holographic screen. The guide explains he can store anything he can lift for 4 seconds. Mordecai then casually warns him that anything living he tries to put inside the inventory will instantly die. The veteran guide suddenly yells out in absolute shock, his jaw dropping as he stares at the inventory screen. Confused by the sudden outburst, the survivor grabs his cat protectively, demanding to know what is happening. The Guildmaster points out that he has somehow received a legendary pet box, completely baffled by his luck. Carl asks why he didn't say so earlier, clearly annoyed by Mordecai's over-the-top and dramatic reaction. The youth feels a strong urge to punch the guide, but knows he is no match for the level 50 Guildmaster. Mordecai shakes with frustration, muttering about how some crawlers get all the luck right from the start. The guide then explains that loot boxes can only be opened in safe areas, so Carl decides to open his now. He gets an achievement for his first kill, with a sarcastic message showing the goblin's grieving family. More achievements flood his screen for his earlier actions, each one granting him a new reward box. He even receives a strange achievement for killing with his bare feet, earning him a gold shoebox. The survivor cringes in disgust at the bizarre and personal nature of the system's notifications. Finally, a series of notifications announces he has leveled up to level 2 and gained new skills and stat points. He stands before a swirling vortex of loot boxes, as Mordecai explains that opening one opens them all. The guildmaster adds that he cannot pick and choose, focusing on the mysterious, chained, legendary chest. His urge to hit the annoying guide rises to 75%, but he quickly turns his attention back to the loot. The bronze pet box opens first, emitting a bright flash of light as it reveals its valuable contents. Inside, he finds a scroll of Heal Critter and a bag of 10 pet biscuits for his feline companion. More boxes open, revealing 2 healing potions and a pair of common fingerless gloves for him to wear. He also receives a toad cudgel, with a humorous description, and another weapon called a poker. From the next chest, a large pile of supplies appears, including more potions, scrolls, and basic weapons. 2 more boxes, one with a heart-shaped lock and another covered in spikes, begin to jingle and open. They burst open with a bright flash of light, showering the young man with even more valuable items. The new loot includes poison antidotes, a large bag of crawler biscuits, and 20 torches. He also gets 5 sticks of dynamite and a lighter, providing him with some much-needed firepower. One of the boxes reveals a mysterious glowing item called a Goblin Pass, which swirls with green energy. The magical item flies toward him and transforms into a tattoo on his forearm, much to his annoyance. A notification jokingly tells him he will never get a good job with the new tattoo, which cannot be hidden. The pass sizzles on his arm. It removes goblin hostility, but makes fairy-class creatures stronger against him. Next, he opens his gold apparel boxes, which are ornately decorated and tied with bright red ribbons. He receives an enchanted Nightgaunt cloak, which offers resistance to poison and ice-based attacks. He also gets an enchanted trollskin shirt that negates various debuffs and increases regeneration. The shirt glows with a golden aura as it floats in the air, a valuable piece of magical equipment. Finally, he receives an enchanted toe ring that boosts his strength and another skill called Powerful Strike. After equipping all his new gear, he gets another achievement and a sarcastic reward for wearing loot. All that remains is the legendary pet box, which floats ominously before him and his curious cat. With a series of loud clicks and a triumphant fanfare, the ornate chest slowly begins to open. A massive cloud of purple smoke erupts from the box, revealing a single enchanted pet biscuit. The biscuit lands gently on the floor with a soft talk, seemingly underwhelming for a legendary item. The young man picks up the small, unimpressive reward, his new gloves on his hands. He looks at the biscuit in his hand, disappointed and questioning if that is really all he received. A system message then appears, cryptically warning him that the biscuit is not what it seems. The guildmaster advises him to feed the strange biscuit to his pet while they are safe inside the guild hall. Donut hops onto his shoulder, eager for the treat he is holding in his newly gloved hand. Still wearing his new gear, he holds the biscuit and asks the guildmaster what its effects are. Mordecai scratches his chin thoughtfully, explaining that the biscuit's effects vary greatly. He suggests that the only way to find out is to try it, or to hold on to it until he finds a shop to sell it at. The cat, now wearing a pair of cool sunglasses, looks up at her owner with wide, hopeful eyes. The young man hesitates, looking down at the small, unassuming biscuit in his hand. Donut's large, pleading eyes stare at him, silently begging for the mysterious and powerful treat. He feels a surge of responsibility, realizing he is all that his companion has left in this cruel new world. He questions how useful she can be, even with a power-up, reminding himself that she is just a cat. He knows he can barely protect her as she is, but he still hesitates, staring down at the hopeful feline. Suddenly, the cat lunges forward and snatches the biscuit from his hand, biting down hard. He yelps in pain as the feisty pet chomps on his finger along with the legendary treat. The cat seems to find the taste absolutely delicious, rolling on the floor in pure bliss. A bright pink light erupts from her body, pulsing outwards as the biscuit's magic takes effect. After the light fades, the cat lies on the floor, seemingly having transformed into a strange, spiky puddle. Carl frantically yells Donut's name as he and the guildmaster watch the strange, quivering puddle on the floor. Filled with rage, the youth demands to know what happened to his cat, his eyes glowing with power. The guide calmly explains that it is just a transformation, assuring him it must be positive or she would have been teleported away. Mordecai adds that nothing can harm anyone inside a safe room, but this does little to calm Carl's rising anger. A large hologram of the showrunner Cascadia appears, announcing the dungeon is sealed with just under 13 million human survivors inside. The survivor is shocked by the low number of people who managed to escape the planet's destruction. The showrunner continues her chilling update, revealing that the number of crawlers has already dropped to 10 million. She notes that the second floor will not open for 30 hours until after the show's introductory episode has aired. Cascadia ends her broadcast by coldly thanking the crawlers for volunteering before wishing them good luck. After the hologram vanishes, Carl and the guildmaster stand in the now quiet room under a starry sky. The guide breaks the silence with a snide remark, suggesting Carl should wear pants if he is going to wear that cloak. Suddenly, a new voice speaks, saying it cannot understand why his ex-girlfriend Beatrice ever hired him. He turns around in shock to see his cat floating in the air, her form completely transformed. The former spiky puddle is now a fluffy, regal-looking feline with an unimpressed expression on her face. The young man stares in utter disbelief, his jaw dropping as he asks if his cat really just spoke. A memory emerges of Donut singing along to a TV show, surrounded by a strange purple mist. The flashback reveals her previous owner, telling her that watching such shows will rot her brain. The feline was a huge fan of drama, remembering a specific episode about a wedding. She even imagined herself as part of the plot, feeling tragically smug about not being invited. Another memory shows her at a cat show with her owner, Bia, being announced as the grand champion. Bia would often cuddle her, calling her a good girl and her princess, making the feline purr happily. The cat also recalls sitting on Carl's lap while he played intense video games late into the night. His loud shouting would often startle her, and she would hiss in annoyance from his lap. In the end, he would always give in and let her stay, a victory the little cat clearly savored. A more recent memory shows him on the phone with Bia after she left for the Bahamas. He had agreed to look after her cat and belongings until her parents could come and collect them. After the difficult phone call, the young man was distraught, and his companion came to comfort him. He held her close, finding a moment of peace and solace in her affectionate purring. Back in the present, the transformed cat introduces herself with an impossibly long and royal name. She then clarifies that she will accept being called Princess Donut, as the two men stare in shock. She adds that she will not accept a simple name when in the presence of high company, striking a regal pose. The newly transformed cat gives a smug look, clearly proud of her newfound status and intelligence. Mordecai watches her, eventually conceding that the name Princess Donut will have to do for now. His expression then shifts to one of surprise and intrigue as a thought occurs to him. The guildmaster throws his head back and laughs, telling the survivor to check his pet's stats. Carl opens his party menu with a swipe of his finger, curious to see the results of the transformation. He is greeted by her stat screen, which shows a significant increase in all her abilities. The numbers are impressive, with high strength, intelligence, and an unbelievably high charisma score. The biscuit also granted her a buff called Enhanced Growth, which automatically increases her stats with each level up. Carl yells out in shock, stunned by the massive boost his companion received from the single treat. He is particularly offended by her intelligence score, which is now significantly higher than his own. Mordecai explains that with her high charisma, she should consider a bard-based class to maximize her potential. He visualizes his cat as a bard, complete with a wizard hat and magical musical notes floating around her. The guildmaster then clarifies that while crawlers and guides are immune to her charisma, others will not be. Princess Donut confirms this, adding that for the first few floors, her charisma will be a huge advantage. Due to the interruptions, Mordecai flops into a chair, annoyed that he has to start the tutorial all over again. Princess Donut sits gracefully, her new form radiating an aura of intelligence and undeniable authority. She addresses the guildmaster, calling Carl her manservant and declaring it is time to get things rolling. She then mockingly comments on his low intelligence, calling the situation sad as she glances at Mordecai. The young man's eye twitches in irritation at being insulted by his own pet in front of the guide. The feline continues, saying he has been with her family for a while and she cannot just let him go. The guildmaster snaps his fingers, reactivating the loot box menu for the newly transformed cat. Princess Donut now has her own set of loot boxes, including bronze, silver, and one legendary chest. The first few boxes open, revealing a collection of basic supplies like potions and torches for her journey. Her silver box contains even more potions and supplies, all glittering with a magical blue light. She also receives a valuable tome of magic missile and a bag of her own special pet biscuits. Her legendary box swirls with a powerful purple aura, promising a truly unique and powerful item. From the swirling vortex, an ominously named item emerges, the enchanted crown of the sepsis whore. Carl comments on the foreboding name, but Mordecai warns him to wait until he reads the item's description. The talking cat then turns her attention to the tome of magic missile, which floats before her, surrounded by dark energy. Mordecai compliments the princess on learning the magic missile spell so quickly from the tome. He then warns her that the other item she received, the crown, is both powerful and extremely dangerous. But before he can finish his warning, Donut places the glowing purple crown squarely on her head. The guildmaster sighs in resignation, realizing he was too late to stop the impulsive feline. The crown sits perfectly on her head, glowing with a powerful purple aura as she smiles contentedly. The crown's description reveals its bizarre powers and a stern warning about its dangerous consequences. Wearing the crown permanently places the user in the royal line of succession for the 9th floor's Blood Sultanate. Carl expresses his concern, saying he is not so sure she should have put on the dangerous item. The newly crowned princess simply states that she likes the color purple, completely ignoring the dire warnings. She proudly proclaims her love for the color, asking if he knows how many purple ribbons she has won. Mordecai explains that the crown will crumble to dust if she removes it, and another will generate elsewhere. If another crawler finds the crown, they will also be entered into the deadly line of succession. Princess Donut hisses at the nearby potions, adding that it will just be one more person for her to kill. Carl is shocked by her sudden bloodthirsty nature, questioning the mention of having to kill others. As he wonders what to do, the feline princess turns to him and says the solution is actually quite simple. The princess stretches, then commands Carl to assist her in reaching the 18th level so she can escape. A system notification announces that she has renamed their party and changed both of their titles. Carl grits his teeth in annoyance, reading the absurdly long titles his companion has assigned them. Princess Donut proudly informs him that he has been promoted from manservant to her royal bodyguard. Mordecai reassures him that the titles do not mean anything, as party leadership is determined by stats. The guildmaster advises him to stick with his cat, as she is currently more powerful than he is. Princess Donut then commands the door to open, and her authority seems to extend to her surroundings. The guide reminds Carl to remember that the dangerous crown is on her head, not his, as they prepare to leave. He also informs them that now that they have been trained, entering another guild will teleport them back here. Carl says goodbye, wishing the guildmaster good luck with his own exit deal. The mouse man wishes him good luck as well, his expression turning serious and contemplative. But just as Carl is about to leave, the guide grabs him by the cloak, pulling him close for a final warning. He stares intently into the young man's eyes, telling him that no matter what he is told, no deal is worth it. The veteran's eye glows with a grim intensity as he repeats his dire warning about the exit deals. He twists his grip on the cloak, adding a final piece of advice, not until he reaches the 12th floor. He says that even then, Carl should negotiate as much as possible before accepting any deal. With a final, meaningful look, he releases his grip and tells the young man to remember his words. The guildmaster then shoves him out of the room, sending him stumbling back into the desolate hallway. The door slams shut behind him, leaving him alone in the dimly lit corridor to process the dire warning. He wonders what the gatekeeper meant, his mind racing to understand the gravity of the situation. For Plel, he realizes the guildmaster's warning implied it would be better to die than to take an exit deal too early. He is surprised that the veteran guide believes he can even make it that far in the dangerous dungeon. The horrifying fact that 3 million people died in just 1 hour sinks in, leaving him stunned. His cat companion breaks the silence, telling him they need to get moving and start their journey. He turns to her, surprised by her sudden command and authoritative tone. She tells him to walk in a certain direction, ordering him to protect her from any potential threats. He questions her plan to just wander aimlessly, but she reveals she has a strategy in mind. They have 29 hours before the first episode airs, and she plans to do something spectacular in that time. But first, she insists they need to find him some pants, refusing to be presented to the universe in such a state. She reminds him that he is not wearing pants either, but she retorts that cats do not wear pants. He wonders how he is supposed to survive, questioning if he will have to fight and kill other humans. His cat begins to mock his low intelligence again, but he quickly cuts her off, tired of her insults. He points down the corridor, firmly stating that he is going that way. He then gestures to his cat, telling her that she will be going in any other direction. Carl turns his back on her, deciding to go his own way and leave her to fend for herself. The princess is shocked by his decision to separate, unable to understand why he would do such a thing. He pinches the bridge of his nose, explaining that since she is more powerful, she will likely be fine. The survivor thinks about the 3 million people who died, realizing he is in much more danger than her. He yells that he is not going to spend the last hours of his life dealing with her arrogant attitude. He throws his hands up in frustration, saying he understands that cats are jerks, but he adds that people like them because they do not talk, which his companion now does. He walks away, telling her to forget it, leaving the stunned cat alone in the corridor. She calls out to him, apologizing and begging him to wait for her. He stops and turns, surprised by her sudden change in tone and sincere apology. The princess admits that he is right, and she is sorry for her behavior, her voice filled with regret. She explains that when she woke up, she was flooded with all her old memories from her life as a cat. A film strip of her life flashes by, showing moments from cat shows and being called a princess. She proudly reminds him that she is a grand champion and is supposed to act a certain way, but she also remembers sitting in his lap while he played video games, and she liked that too. A montage of his gaming sessions plays, showing his various expressions of frustration and triumph. With a sad look, he admits that she has a point, but she adds that he really sucks at the game. His eye twitches in annoyance at her backhanded compliment, his patience wearing thin once again. She says that even though he was bad at the game, he kept playing, and she liked watching him. He asks if she is saying she is not a crazy, stuck-up princess, and she says she will try not to be. The cat then admits she is scared and does not want to be alone, her voice trembling with fear. She reminds him that he does not want to be alone either, but he seems confused by her words. The princess then jumps onto his shoulder, nuzzling against him affectionately. She recalls the day he could have taken her back to be his parents, but he chose not to. He was even looking at new apartments, specifically searching for ones that allowed cats. The two companions then turn and face the dark, ominous corridor, ready to face their future together. She accuses him of planning to catnap her, and he is unable to deny it. He stammers for a moment before admitting that her accusation is true. She smugly tells him it would not have worked anyway, as Bia's powerful father would have retrieved her. The young man sighs, knowing she is right, and nuzzles his face against hers. With their differences resolved, he finally agrees to her plan, and they prepare to move forward. The princess affectionately pats his cheek with her paw, a silent gesture of their renewed partnership. The two companions then head down the long, torch-lit corridor, ready to face the dungeon's challenges. He reminds her that the only reason he is not wearing pants is because she jumped out the window. She retorts that if she had not, they would both be dead, then asks why she jumped out. Suddenly, the feline princess tells him to stop, sensing something dangerous down the corridor. He asks what she sees as she growls, her senses on high alert, staring into the darkness ahead. Her eyes glow with a powerful red light as she activates a new, unknown ability. Two powerful beams of energy shoot from her eyes, striking something in the distance. The beams cause a massive explosion far down the hall, leaving him completely shocked by her power. The energy blasts ricochet off the walls, narrowly missing him as he stands frozen in amazement. As the smoke from the blast begins to clear, a new pair of glowing red eyes appears in the dark corridor ahead. A massive, dog-like monster emerges from the shadows, letting out a ferocious and deafening roar.